What does it take to beat a Spurs team playing without Victor Wembanyama and Stephon Castle? Apparently, you need Anthony Edwards dropping 32 points and the Timberwolves shooting 7 three-pointers in one quarter, because for 36 minutes in Minneapolis, San Antonio looked like a legitimate playoff contender even without their two stars. The Spurs led 93-89 heading into the fourth quarter Sunday night, riding a balanced attack and exceptional bench play. Then Minnesota's shooters caught fire, and the wheels came off in a 125-112 defeat at the Target Center. But here's the part that should actually excite Spurs fans. This team just took a top 10 Western Conference squad to the wire while missing their best player and their Rookie of the Year. Let's break down what really happened. What's up, Spurs fans? Welcome back to Spurs Quick News, quick, sharp, and all about the silver and black. I'm your host. And today we're diving into how the Spurs' weaknesses got exposed in Minneapolis and what it means for a brutal stretch ahead. Before we jump in, drop your city in the comments so we know where the Spurs family's tuning in from. Let's establish what the Spurs accomplished Sunday night before we talk about the fourth quarter. San Antonio came into Minneapolis riding serious momentum. They just clinched their NBA Cup quarterfinals spot. They were 13-5 overall, a legitimate playoff caliber record. And they'd won the previous two games without Victor Wembanyama calf strain and Stephon Castle hip flexor strain, their two defensive anchors. Against Minnesota, the formula was working again. De'Aaron Fox carved up the Timberwolves' defense early, finishing 19 points on 8 of 1 shooting in the first half alone. Dylan Harper, in just his third game, back from a 10-game absence due to calf injury, attacked Rudy Gobert fearlessly, finishing with 17 points on 8-12 shooting. The bench outscored Minnesota's reserves by 17 points. Keldon Johnson dropped 22 points on 8-12 shooting. The Spurs shot an absurd 83.3% at the rim through two quarters. Everything was clicking. San Antonio led 62-61 at halftime. They pushed that to 93-89 heading into the fourth quarter, controlling the game's pace for 3 full periods against a Timberwolves squad that had just beaten Boston the night before. But here's the context. Everyone's missing while the Spurs were winning those first 3 quarters. Anthony Edwards was already sitting on 19 points. Julius Randle had 13. Minnesota shot 46% from 3 for the game, knocking down 17 triples compared to San Antonio's 8 of 3, 24%. The foundation wasn't built on sustainable defense. It was built on paint dominance and individual brilliance. And when Minnesota's shooters heated up, that foundation cracked. Do you think the Spurs' three-point shooting drought is a personnel issue or something that better ball movement could solve? Type personnel or movement below. I'll feature the best takes next episode. Let's talk about what actually separated these two teams, because it wasn't talent and it wasn't effort. Minnesota made 7 three-pointers in the final frame alone. Naz Reid hit 2. Dante DiVincenzo hit 2. Mike Conley splashed 1. The Wolves went on a 25-7 run to open the fourth quarter, outscoring the Spurs 36-19 inches the final period. They outscored San Antonio by 18 points from beyond the arc in the fourth quarter alone. That's the entire margin of victory right there. But here's what deserves credit before we critique. The Spurs bench was elite. Dylan Harper, Keldon Johnson, Kelly Olynyk, and the second unit outscored Minnesota's bench by 17 points. That's not a fluke, that's genuine depth. Harper looked explosive, attacking the rim, consistently finishing through contact against Gobert in just his third game back from injury. Keldon put up 22 points on 8-12 shooting, doing most of his damage in the paint, using his signature strength and touch combo. De'Aaron Fox continued his strong play since joining San Antonio, finishing with 25 points on 1-0 of 1-5 shooting 66.7%. That's the 5th straight game he's been the offensive engine. Devin Vassell added 22 points, though he struggled from deep, going 1 for 9 from 3 after torching Denver for 35 points 2 nights earlier. So what went wrong defensively? Mitch Johnson said it himself post-game. At the start of the third quarter, I thought our activity, resistance, togetherness defensively was really poor. We turned them over 0 times in the third quarter. 0 turnovers forced. 0. That's the gap. Without Wembanyama erasing drives and without Castle pressuring the ball, San Antonio couldn't generate the defensive chaos that fuels their transition game. When Minnesota pushed pace and got into their sets, the Spurs' rotations were a step slow, closing out on shooters. And just when you think this is purely negative, remember that the Spurs took Minnesota to the wire without their two best defenders and still had a 4-point lead heading into the fourth. If you were Mitch Johnson, would you prioritize tightening defensive rotations or getting more three-point reps for shooters? Comment defense or shooting below. If you're vibing with this tactical breakdown, hit that like it really helps the channel grow. Here's where the narrative gets interesting. The Spurs are now 13-6, still the fourth best record in the Western Conference. They're 5-2 without Wembanyama, which is legitimately impressive for a team supposedly built around a generational talent. They've integrated De'Aaron Fox seamlessly. He's averaging 26 points and 7 assists over the 5 games. Both Wemby and Castle have been out. And Dylan Harper? The rookie just returned from missing 10 games and immediately looked like he belonged, attacking one of the league's best rim protectors without hesitation. That's not just talent, that's confidence and maturity beyond his 19 years. But look at what's coming next, and you'll understand why this stretch matters so much. After flying home late Sunday night, the Spurs get exactly one home game Tuesday against Memphis before hitting the road again for at least 4 more contests. They face Orlando and Cleveland on a back-to-back, then New Orleans, then the Lakers in the NBA Cup quarterfinals in Los Angeles. If they win that Lakers game, they're off to Las Vegas for the semifinals. The math. San Antonio could reach mid-December having been home for just 36 hours in 3.5 weeks. That's not a road trip, that's a test of organizational depth and character. And they're doing it all while waiting for Wembanyama, calf, and Castle hip flexor to return. There's no clear timeline yet, though both are expected to be reevaluated soon. Behind the scenes, San Antonio's player development is paying dividends. Harper's immediate impact after a month-long absence shows the team's training staff knows how to bring players back safely. The bench's consistent production proves Mitch Johnson has cultivated real depth. There's one factor, just one, that could shift this entire conversation when it returns. Would you bring Wembanyama back early to anchor the defense for this brutal stretch, or keep him out until he's 100% healthy? Tell me below. Play it safe, or we need him now. Let's be real about where this team stands right now with context. Proven strengths. The bench depth is championship caliber. Keldon Johnson and Dylan Harper combined for 39 points off the pine against Minnesota, and the second unit outscored the Timberwolves reserves by 17. When your backups are dominating good teams on the road, you've got something special brewing. De'Aaron Fox has been everything advertised. Since joining the Spurs, he's averaging 26 points and 7 assists with both Wemby and Castle out. His ability to penetrate and finish creatively around the rim has unlocked offensive possessions that would have stalled last season. The offense runs smoothly with him orchestrating Dylan Harper's fearless attacking. In just his 3rd game back from injury, the rookie went at Rudy Gobert, a 4-time Defensive Player of the Year without hesitation. That's not coachable. That's DNA. 3-point shooting remains inconsistent. The Spurs shot 24% from deep against Minnesota, 8 of 3. That's the 5th time this season they've struggled from distance, and they're 2 to 3 inches those games. Harrison Barnes and Julian Champagnie, typically reliable shooters, combined for just 1 3-pointer. Defensive rim protection without Wembanyama. The Spurs allowed Minnesota to shoot at will in the 4th quarter, with the Wolves making 6 attempts in the paint in the final frame. Luke Kornet and Kelly Olynyk gave solid minutes, but neither can erase mistakes like Wemby. But here's the perspective shift. This team is 13-6 while figuring out these issues. They're 5-2 without their best player. They're developing rookies and integrating new pieces while competing for playoff positioning. Every championship team hides growing pains. The difference is whether you grow through them or get buried by them. San Antonio's growing. What do you think is the Spurs' biggest opportunity for improvement? 3-point volume, defensive communication, or rotation consistency? Drop your thoughts. The best comments get featured next episode. Here's the reality check Spurs fans need to hear. Next up, Memphis at home Tuesday, then Orlando, Cleveland, New Orleans, and the Lakers in the NBA Cup quarterfinals. That's 5 games in 9 days, 4 on the road against playoff caliber competition. But here's what makes this stretch fascinating instead of terrifying. If San Antonio can go 3-2 or better in that stretch without Wembanyama and Castle, they're not just surviving, they're proving they're built differently than anyone expected. They're showing that Fox, Harper, Vassell, and this bench can carry meaningful minutes even when the stars return. That's how you build championship depth. Look at what happened in Minnesota with fresh eyes. The Spurs took a rested Timberwolves team to the wire on the second night of a back-to-back for Minnesota, led for 3 quarters, and only lost when Minnesota shot the lights out from 3 in the fourth. That's not a collapse. That's competitive basketball against a good team while severely short-handed. And here's the detail I'm watching closest. Dylan Harper is just scratching the surface of what he can be. 3 games back from injury, and he's already attacking elite rim protectors without fear. Once he gets his legs fully under him and starts sharing the court with Wemby consistently, the Spurs' ceiling just got higher. This isn't the end of something. It's the beginning of understanding what this team can become. If this breakdown gave you a fresh perspective on where the Spurs really stand, smash that like and share it with a Spurs fan who needs some silver and black optimism. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the Memphis game breakdown Tuesday, because how this team responds after a tough loss will tell us everything about their competitive DNA. The Spurs are 13-6, battling injuries, facing a brutal schedule, and still competing at a high level without their 2 best defenders. Whether they rise or stumble in the next 2 weeks will shape the entire season's narrative. But one thing's clear, this team isn't backing down from anyone. Until next time, stay silver and black, stay sharp. Peace.